On this episode of Doing the Most, we're going to make mead using a sous vide. This episode is a little bit of a departure from our typical content in that we're going to be reviewing Vevor's sous vide circulator, and we're going to be showing you 3 different ways you can use a sous vide to make mead. We're going to be using our sous vide for 3 different things for this mead. First off, we're going to bochet. That means we're going to caramelize the honey using a sous vide water bath. Secondly, we're going to be using the sous vide for temperature control. We're going to be fermenting with a yeast called kveik voss. It's a yeast that really operates well at the 95 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit level, and that's a pretty high temperature for a lot of yeast. It's definitely not the temperature I keep my house at, so we're going to be using a sous vide water bath to maintain 95 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the entirety of fermentation. And lastly, we're going to use the sous vide machine to pasteurize our brews, because we're going to be bottling this Bochet pet nat, meaning we're going to bottle it during active fermentation, let it carbonate in the bottles, and we're going to stop it short by pasteurizing those bottles using the sous vide so it can be sweet but also naturally sparkling. So that's 3 different ways we can use the sous vide for mead making. My friends over at Vevor were so kind to send me their sous vide. This thing is huge. It is a real workhorse. Got this big clip on the back that makes it really easy to clip it onto kind of any vessel that you would want to do a water bath in. I was using it with a crock pot. We also have plans to use it with our Dutch oven. This is heavy duty, and it's got a really easy to use digital display on top that not only lets you set the temperature for your water bath, but also lets you set how long you want to maintain that temperature. This is my first experience firsthand using a sous vide circulator, and I thought that this thing was really a dream to use. I was pretty impressed by how user-friendly it was. It was a little tricky for me to figure out at first, but the instruction booklet is pretty easy to read through and follow, and that got me set up and ready to go, and we've used it for several different things since I did the Bochet with it. If you'd like to get one of these, they are reasonably priced, and I can get you a discount. Check out the link in the description for information on how you can pick one of these up yourself. And obviously, when you use the link and promo code, that helps support the channel. So we really appreciate your support from that end. And thank you to Vevor for sending this over so we can demonstrate for you how your sous vide can help you make mead. So before we start the Bochet, it's important to talk a little bit about what that process looks like. Typically, when people are caramelizing honey, they're doing it in a stovetop pot, and they're putting it in there, putting it on a medium to medium low heat, and letting it go for anywhere from 15 minutes up to an hour, hour and a half to turn that honey from a light amber or straw color to a nice, dark, bold, rich, caramelized honey. And this creates some really awesome nougaty, toffee, coffee, chocolatey kind of flavors, depending on what honey varietal you're working with. I'm not going to go into the full deep dive scientific details of what we know about this process using modern analysis, but my friend Carlos from Texas Longhouse Mead has been doing a lot of investigation into this, and he believes that he has debunked some common knowledge about the Bochet process, which is that it creates non-fermentable sugars. For a long time, we have thought that caramelizing honey creates non-fermentable sugars, which is why so often when we ferment caramelized honey into a mead, we see the hydrometer reading higher than 1.000 at the end of fermentation. And Carlos, through his study of this and through some experiments he's done on this, believes that it's not non-fermentable sugars that are stopping the fermentation process early. It's that high temperatures at a certain level create a byproduct called HMF that is actually toxic to the yeast. And it's toxic to us too, but probably not in the levels that you'd be consuming it in a Bochet. But the toxicity to the yeast can create enough of a stressed condition that they just give up and don't ferment all the way dry. This is a very new area of research. There's not a lot of scientific data backing it up just yet. But if you're involved with any sort of chemistry, biochemistry lab, and you have access to equipment that can measure HMF levels, send me an email. Carlos and I would like to get in touch with you about doing some further research into this. The great thing about doing a Bochet with a sous vide is you can keep it well below that temperature threshold. We're gonna do ours at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 hours. And you shouldn't create any HMF in there. Therefore, you should be able to get this to ferment dry if you're not carbonating. So let's take a look at how that's done. So here's the recipe we're gonna work from in this video. And as you can see, it's incredibly basic. That's because I wanted to put this thing to the test and really understand how the sous vide process can impact the flavor of a Bochet. So we'll start by getting our honey into the crock pot. We're not actually going to be plugging the crock pot in, we're just using it for insulating our sous vide water bath. So this is just wildflower honey, very cheap wildflower honey from Monarch's Choice, and I have 1.5 pounds of it going into the crock pot. Then we will cover those with a water bath of cold water. And we're gonna set our sous vide circulator for 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're gonna do that for about 20 hours. This thing is relatively intuitive once you kind of get an understanding of what all the buttons and options do. It's pretty basic. Just takes a little learning to figure out how to navigate the menu system. We are going to insulate these further by putting some aluminum foil over the top. This is just going to help alleviate some of the concerns about evaporation because some of the water will evaporate off. This will help most of it trickle back down into our crock pot. So we just want to get that mostly covered, and that'll help keep things efficient for us. Bingo bango, 20 hours later, we've got some very dark honey by comparison. Here on the left, you can see how dramatic the color change is from the raw honey that you see on the right. There are any number of reasons you might want temperature control for a fermentation, and here the temperature control is going to be bringing the temperature up, not bringing the temperature down. There are some yeasts, notably kveik yeasts, that like fermentation temperatures that are quite a bit higher than their other yeasty counterparts. Again, kveik voss ferments really well between 95 and 100 degrees, and you get a really nice like orange marmalade kind of flavor out of the yeast when you ferment at that higher temperature. The sous vide can help us do that easily by maintaining that temperature in a water bath. So essentially what we're gonna do is brew up a 1 gallon batch. That 1 gallon carboy will fit inside of my crock pot, and we're going to use a water bath to maintain that temperature. This is gonna get us a really, really consistent fermentation out of this yeast, and it's gonna be fermenting right at that perfect fermentation temperature to create those nice estery flavors. So here's how you can use your sous vide circulator for temperature controlled fermentation. We will pop our funnel into the carboy and get our ingredients in. I had a little taste of this honey when we were adding it in, and it definitely has a nice, rich, complex Bochet flavor, and notably, at least in the honey, no burnt flavors. We'll get every last drop of honey out of there that we can by putting some hot water in the jars and shaking them around. And I'm gonna use about 4 grams of Fermade O here, just front loaded right at the beginning. Add all the rest of our water in, shake, shake, shake. And we're gonna be using kveik ale yeast for this. That goes right on in. We're gonna be fermenting this at 95 degrees Fahrenheit. That's gonna allow the kveik yeast to really express its profile. Here with kveik voss, this particular strain, it likes to produce some orange jammy kind of flavors. So I think that'll go really well with the molassesy, chocolatey, rich flavors of that Bochet honey. So our circulator goes back on, and we're gonna set that for 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're gonna ferment that all the way down to 1.010. And at that point, a little unconventionally, we're gonna bottle it and carbonate it in a pet nat style. Plug our sous vide in, set it for 95 degrees, and we'll just set an arbitrary number for how long it's gonna be in there. And then we cover that all back up with some aluminum foil, and we're gonna let that ferment. And here in about a day or two, we'll start taking hydrometer readings to see where the gravity's at, so we can bottle it a little bit sweet before we pasteurize it. Bottle conditioning to carbonate a mead or a cider or a wine or a beer requires a couple of things. It requires residual sugar that the yeast can consume once the bottle is closed, and it requires the bottle to stay closed for a period of time that can trap the CO2 generated by that yeast and cause it to move into suspension within the liquid. So for example, say you wanted to carbonate a session mead or a beer. You would put a measured amount of sugar, for a 12-ounce bottle, that's around a teaspoon of sugar, into the bottle. And then you would bottle your mead or beer on top of that sugar. You would cap the bottle, and the sugar inside there would dissolve into the liquid. The yeast consume that sugar and turn it into a little bit of alcohol and a little bit of CO2, and that CO2 is what gives you a sparkling drink. The difference that we're doing here is we are bottling before fermentation is done. So we're bottling when it is considerably sweet. We're going to let the yeast continue working in that sealed bottle, and then we're going to pasteurize when it's at an appropriate carbonation level. And to do that, we're going to be using a plastic test bottle. We're going to fill it up, pinch all the air out of it, and seal it up. And then when that bottle gets really firm, we know that the glass bottles are ready to be pasteurized. And I'm gonna put here on the screen a timetable of pasteurization temps. You can screenshot this if you want. I think that might be helpful. So that way you can see what temperature and for how long you need to hold that temperature for there to be no possible microbial activity in that liquid. So for example, 160 degrees Fahrenheit for about 22 seconds is enough to pasteurize a wine, mead, cider, or beer. So let's take a look at how you would bottle condition and pasteurize using your sous vide circulator. Here we go on day 3. We're at 1.010. So we're gonna get that bottled and carbonated. And we're gonna let the yeast continue fermenting inside the bottle. That will build up some CO2 pressure and carbonate our mead. And to gauge carbonation level, we're going to be squeezing out the air from a plastic bottle and bottling in that. And then we will pasteurize all the bottles once that plastic bottle has gone firm. It took about 36-ish hours for our plastic bottle to firm up with some good pressure. It's not totally firm. You could still probably build up a little bit more pressure inside there, but I was ready to get these pasteurized and off my kitchen counter. So in order to pasteurize with the sous vide, we're gonna put a bottle of cold water right there in the middle and leave that open. And then we're going to fill our water bath also with cold water. So cold water goes in. And once we've got that about as high as we can get it, we will start the sous vide, and we're gonna bring these up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. 160 is a little bit overkill, and I'm a risk-averse person, so we're gonna use that instant read thermometer to check the open bottle, and when the cold water in that bottle has come up to 160 degrees consistently, we'll know it's time to shut off the sous vide, and we're pretty darn close. It took about 30 minutes for that bottle to get up to 160. And I did have to set the sous vide a little higher than 160 Fahrenheit because it was kind of keeping things at about 158-ish. And so I just want to make sure we hit that target temperature. And you'll see as I'm gauging the temperature, it is hotter lower down in the bottle. So you want to make sure you kind of take a gradient of temperatures, and you want the very tippy top of that bottle to be 160 degrees Fahrenheit before you shut this thing off. And right there we have it. So we're going to shut the sous vide circulator off, and we're going to allow those bottles to come down to room temperature in the water bath. This will provide plenty of time for them to thoroughly pasteurize. Again, I want to give a huge shout out to Vevor for letting us use one of their sous vide circulators for this video. It's been really helpful in putting this content together so you can see how to use sous vide for your mead. And again, if you'd like to pick one of these up for yourself, use the link in the description, use our promo code to get a little bit of a discount. And of course, once you get it and use it, let us know how you like it. This wouldn't be a doing the most how-to video if I wasn't drinking something at the end. So let's take a taste test of our sous mead. I hope you can see that. If not, obviously there will be some close-up shots It's beautifully carbonated and crystal clear. One of the benefits of the pasteurization process is it kills everything in the bottle. So a lot of that is left behind in the bottom of the bottle if you pour carefully enough. And here we are, nice carbonated, caramelized mead. Now this recipe isn't really a recipe. It's more of a tutorial on how to do the process. If I was gonna do this differently, I'd probably add a gram or so of tannin in primary, and I'd also probably finish it with a little bit of vanilla at the time of bottling, just to kind of round out the flavor profile. But here we can try it in a traditional pseudo pet nat style, sous vide mead. Still got plenty of residual sweetness in there. If I had to guess, it's probably sitting at about 1.007, 1.008, somewhere in that range. The carbonation on it is light. It could be a little bit more carbonated. As you saw, I didn't let that bottle firm up entirely. But there's still quite a bit of carbonation in here, and for a lot of folks with those caramel flavors, you are gonna want that kind of heft of sweetness in something like this. You get a little bit of the acidity that is inherent to the honey. So just like a little bit of acid. It's not a big punch, it's not a big fresh burst of acid, just a delicate acid across the tongue. And then the flavors you get are those dark toffee kind of flavors. There is no burnt flavor in here. There's no char, there's no ash, there's no charcoal, there's no carbon. It just tastes like caramel. It tastes like lightly sweet caramel. And the bubbles are nice. It kind of helps spread it around the tongue and kind of fill out the palate on something that would be a little bit watery if it wasn't carbonated. I think this process has a lot of promise. I think this has a lot of promise again. With a little bit of balancing. As of recording this video, I pitched the yeast 8 days ago. Right? Yeah, 8 days ago. So pretty quick turnaround from pitching the yeast to drinking. And you know, there was another day and a half ahead of that. So we're under 10 days from starting the Bochet to drinking a carbonated and crystal clear mead. I think that's pretty impressive, pretty effective, and there's a lot of potential for something like this. So if you're gonna do this, or if you have done this, or you do this, please leave a comment and let me know your experience with sous vide, whether it's for pasteurizing or temperature control or doing the Bochet caramelizing of your honey. Let me know in the comments what your experience is, and if you have any tips or other recipes, because now I've got a sous vide and I wanna use this thing a lot. If you like this video or found it helpful, please hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming content here on the channel. And one last reminder, if you want to pick up a Vevor sous vide circulator, they're relatively inexpensive, and I really enjoyed using this little device. Can't wait to make more food and drinks with it. Until next time, my friends, happy brewing and cheers.
Homemade brews and various how-tos, everything from mead to roast, bake creation, fermentation, inebriation, doing the most.